Alrighty, we are here for the finals of the 2025 Revolution World Championship. It is Stasis coming out of the upper bracket versus Provocative coming out of the lower bracket. Provocative is coming into this match with one loss in the upper bracket, which means Provocative is going to have to win two consecutive series here in order to take the crown here. Certainly something that Provocative's deck could do, but they are going to be up against a definite challenge here, as Stasis not only has a favorable deck into this matchup, but also gets to decide who is going to be on the play or the draw in both of these series. If we even go to the second series, timestamps as always will be in the description below. But I would highly recommend not taking a peek at the timestamps and time codes for where each of these games goes, because I think this is going to be one worth keeping some suspense to on how long these matches go and how many games we actually get here. So, Stasis on Bant mid-range. We've got Star-Studded Sagittar, Mana Harvesters, Kaineos, Builder of Monuments, Survivors in the New World, Stormscraper of Ketithos, Severin, Sparkmind, and an enchantment package with a playset of Planned Obsolescence, a singleton Stasis Chamber, playset of Manifest the Light Veins, playset of Gone Pickin', and two Fall of Tracks. We'll get into the sideboards a bit after the first game. Basic focused mana base with 3 forests, 3 plains, 2 island, 8 fetches between 4 Primal Fissure, 3 Cityscape, and 1 Warpway Rings, as well as a playset of Ancient Light Vein and 3 Silliman District. We've seen Stasis go up against a lot of slower, grindier matchups so far in this GP, but not in this GP, in this Worlds Tournament. So far in this Worlds Tournament, Stasis has gone up against a lot of slower, grindier matchups that they were nervous about. So they've definitely had to claw their way into this finals from the upper bracket. But fortunately, this is a matchup that Stasis was actually hoping to run into more in the early phases of this tournament. So Stasis getting to have this matchup here towards the end of this tournament, kind of just a fitting way for them to get to close it out. And they are, of course, against Mono Green Stompy. Provocative's kind of iconic deck at this point. Playsets of Seeker of New Horizons, Aspiring Anarchist, Growing Gecko, 3 Menelaya Beloved Lyrist, 3 Sleeper Insurgent, a playset of Skull and Nyxweaver, playset of Grassroots Campaigners, 3 Yen's Slopeskidder, 2 Nessian Scout Captain, and 2 King of the Wilderness, as well as a playset of Journey Begins and a simple 23 Forest land base. This deck has really put its paces in against these grindier, slower strategies this GP as this Worlds event as well. So used to commentating GP stuff. Definitely has put in its performances against slower, grindier matchups as well in this World tournament thus far. So if any deck is going to have a shot at trying to steal away games from a matchup that is theoretically favored against it, it is going to be Stompy being able to try and absolutely run away from a game. And that is our Stompy player showing up to the match. So let's pivot on over and get to spectating. This is going to be game one. We're jumping in here. And Stasis is the higher seed. So Stasis will, as I mentioned, be deciding play or draw on all of these, on both of these potential game ones. I'm really thrilled to be watching these two players square off. Both of these players also designers for sets in the format. Stasis, of course, the designer of Cliques of Nylon, home to cards like Redeveloped Cityscape, as well as Severin Sparkmind, which we see both of in Stasis's opening hand here. Stasis keeping 7, Provocative mulliganing to 6. Provocative is the designer for the upcoming Kitsuo Dusk of Time, one of the 2 sets rotating in the May 1st patch, replacing Hyperpop alongside Errors of the Weft. So both of these players definitely getting to flex their familiarity with the format and really getting to show their skill at the same time. Stasis leading on Cityscape, Provocative responding with an Aspiring Anarchist. We see Provocative keep 2 lands as Journey Begins, Anarchist, Nyxweaver, Nessian Scout Captain, and Provocative put a Yen's Slopeskidder on the bottom. Stasis pitching a Nascent Light Vein to get Forest to play Island to hand, draws a Plains, also has Builder of Monuments, Kaineos, Star-Studded Sagittar, Severin Sparkmind, and 1 Plains that was already in the opener here. Grassroots Campaigners is the draw for Provocative. Not the best scenario here necessarily. Don't love, as the aggro player, having to A Journey Begins and that be the entirety of the turn 2 here. But at this point, Provocative is kind of just digging for a green source, I think. Does reveal a land, puts a Grassroots Campaigners, Menelea, and 2 more Skull and Nyxweavers to the bottom. So all 4 Skull and Nyxweavers accounted for. 2 are in the bottom 4 cards of the library, and the other 2 are in the hand here. Kaineos is the draw for Stasis. This second copy of Kaineos isn't likely to do much. Wow, Aspiring Anarchist blocking the Star-Studded Sagittar, denying the mana here. So Stasis cannot just develop a Builder of Monuments here. We'll instead have to go for the Kaineos Bladebound. With the Severin and Builder in this hand, it seems pretty wise to deny the Star-Studded Sagittar attack combat damage trigger. This Blessing, of course, being Equinox Mark, which makes a land capable of tapping for double green. We see a Planned Obsolescence picked up off of Kaineos here. Kaineos, one of the big defining cards of this tournament. Not one that saw an absolutely astounding amount of play prior to this tournament, but Kaineos has absolutely been running away in this environment. Survivors of the New World is the pickup for Provocative for Stasis after Provocative responds with a Skull and Nyxweaver. Currently, Nyxweaver not checked by the Planned Obsolescence. Obsolescence needs to see a 4-drop for Skull and Nyxweaver to get picked off by it, but Stasis could go for Severin Sparkmind, untap 3 lands, Planned Obsolescence, swing with the Sagittar and the Kaineos, and then with the mana made from Sagittar's Blessing, giving you the 4th mana, tap those 3 lands for 4 mana to develop the Builder of Monuments afterwards. I feel like that's got to be a really, really nasty position to put your opponent in. Especially since Skull and Nyxweaver really doesn't do anything until you can untap with it. But we do see Stasis thinking. This is a complex deck that Stasis has brought to this tournament, so lots to be thinking over here. We do see, of course, the Plains being put into play here. Stasis apologizing for the wait. All good. I do think the Severin untap your lands. Actually can't do Severin untap your lands into Planned Obsolescence because, because if you Planned Obsolescence off the Severin, then that is going to not allow you to... Picks up potentially a Sagittar or another Planned Obsolescence here off Kaineos. But yeah, I did miss the Severin. Just not having enough mana for Planned Obsolescence plus Severin here. Looks like probably just going to get blocked here. Yeah, so chips in, just gets chump blocked, so they bounce off each other. Neither of these creatures die, but Kaineos does draw the second Planned Obsolescence, and Builder Monuments is now on the board. Land is, Anarchist is the draw for Provocative, so has the 4th land drop here. Provocative just packs it up. Can't get through Kaineos plus Builder of Monuments. Builder is just going to rip apart Provocative's board, and we are already onto the sideboard. So, brief discussion of what could be boarded in here. Provocative, very likely to be boarding in some copies of Hostile Evolution, potentially, but not the best in this circumstance. Builder Monuments does actually get around Hexproof and Ward by slipping auras into play without casting them. Could also see maybe some copies of Vasilisa coming in. For Stasis's part, I could see Chosen of Heliod coming in, Zakros Decree, potentially Harmony with Nature, potentially Follow Tracks, but I think Zakros Decree and Chosen of Heliod seem the safest things to see get boarded in here, and we are right back into it. So Provocative is going to be on the play here. This is Provocative's opportunity to try and steal a game post board. We see Thunderous Avalanche in, not something I shouted out in Provocative sideboard, but actually does make a lot of sense here. Provocative keeping 7. Not actually a high momentum opener here, but we see Stasis keeping 7 as well, and Stasis also on a bit of a slower start. Island, Plains, Primal Fissure, presumably to go get a forest for this manifest the Light Veins on turn 2. Forest is the draw. Not really what Stasis wants to be seeing on a 4-lander there. And Provocative also draws the 5th land, so both players kind of limited on terms of what resources they have access to in this hand. And it's a bit of a competition because ultimately Provocative has the early clock, but Stasis does have a lot of value generation here if left unchecked. Star-Studded Sagittar is the pickup for Stasis, but on the defense here, Sagittar does not seem like a particularly safe thing to invest into. We could still see Stasis develop it instead of the Manifest the Light Veins, but this looks like Manifest Light Veins, and sure enough, that is going to be Light Veins on the forest here. So if Light Veins gets picked off, it is just going to blow up the Light Veins, and the land would be unfazed even if the land was getting hit with something that would destroy it. So Grassroots Campaigners is the pickup for Provocative. That could be a difference maker here. We're going to see the Campaigners instead of holding up Thunderous Avalanche. So Stasis is going to get to jump up to 4 mana next turn, with Light Veins producing 2 different colors of mana. Thinking on the Campaigners here, there are 3 potential tokens they could make. We're not going to see Vishanki here, but we could see Penwrath Insurgency, and it is going to be Penwrath Insurgency for +2/+2 to the attack to a creature whenever you pledge. The other option here that I could have seen being picked was Silman Labs, which can tap an untapped creature and potentially put a +1/+1 counter on it. Good to take some of these vigilance blockers out of the way. But in this circumstance, it seems like it is likely just going to be Builder of Monuments getting thrown onto the board here for 4 mana. Or Kaineos. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be Kaineos instead. This actually does make sense. We can expect to see Stasis trying to fish for Gone Pickin' or Storm Scraper of Kedafo. Is going to have to take the Gone Pickin' here. I was going to say we could see Stasis gunning for Planned Obsolescence to go Plains, Planned Obsolescence, pick off the Seeker of New Horizons. But as it stands, draws a Growing Gecko, can go land, buff the Seeker of New Horizons, buff the Grassroots Campaigners with Penwrath Insurgency, Nessian Scout Captain, make the Seeker of New Horizons the champion, which gives it +1/+1 and makes it legendary. And then the champion attacks both your creatures with power 4 or greater, get +1/+1 and trample. Not doing that, though. Interesting. So both of these do kill Kaineos on their own here. This is 9 damage, would have represented 12 with the Nessian Scout Captain line. Stasis clarifying they don't have any 1-mana white instants. In fact, Stasis has no instant speed plays in their deck. So Stasis just taking 9 down to 6. And Provocative holding up the Thunderous Avalanche. Fall of Tracks is the pickup from Stasis that would have been able to check the Nessian Scout Captain. So pretty solid line from Provocative in that regard. Stasis going to swing back with both of these creatures, Manifest making the forest a 2/2 plus Kaineos as a 1/4 for 3 total damage. Kaineos does find a Gone Pickin', but that is another 3 mana enchantment. Not quite going to be good enough here, I think. We could see Stasis go for Gone Pickin' plus Star-Studded Sagittar here. Could also see Stasis just go for Builder of Monuments. I'm not sure what the right line is here. Either way, though, I think it is a line that leaves them vulnerable to this Thunderous Avalanche. We're going to see the builder. I think Thunderous Avalanche, you have the Seeker of New Horizons blow up the Builder of Monuments, and suddenly land drop buff the Grassroots Campaigners. These are both 6/6s. This is a 5/5. This is a 5/5. Nessian Scout Captain is lethal, because this will swing for 6. This will swing for 7. Oh my goodness, we're going to get a game 3 real quick here. Yeah, Nessian Scout Captain does not matter which gets buffed up. Both are lethal threats, even without the trample. And Stasis has no interaction for this. That Thunderous Avalanche for the fight mode, biting out the Builder of Monuments, does close it up. And we're on to a game 3. It's going to be Stasis presumably on the play here. And this has been a breakneck first match. We could see this go to a second match here if Provocative can steal this game 3 here. Stasis mulliganing to 6, Provocative keeping a hand of 7. Zakros Decree was boarded in, put to the bottom despite it being a 1-of, so probably not going to be coming up this matchup unless it gets found off of Kaineos after the search. Cityscape cracks for Primal Fisher. Provocative goes Forest into Aspiring Anarchist. Does not have... Oh, does have a Sleeper Insurgent to play turn 2. Picks up Forest Island, can manifest the Light Veins or Star-Studded Sagittar here. Sagittar lets you hold up a blocker for the Anarchist. Plays Fisher, cracks for an island, cracks for a plane, so that's going to be the Sagittar rather than the Light Veins here. Presumably into Kaineos or Gone Pickin' next turn. Provocative draws the 4th land here. So this does not untap during its controller's untap step, but whenever it's a target of a spell or ability, you untap it. This 4/3 gets untapped by Aspiring Anarchist's attack trigger. Stasis Chamber is the pickup for Stasis here. Could be solid if Kaineos can stick around for a turn to lock down the Aspiring Anarchist potentially, but not so much of an option against Sleeper Insurgent because this thing already has that doesn't untap clause. This is going to be Gone Pickin' on presumably the Sleeper Insurgent. So Sleeper gets picked off. Could see the Sagittar attack again. Berry on the Sagittar. So if Provocative takes this, that's 3 damage, and that's going to be the Equinox Mark token on one of these lands here, presumably the Forest, because this is the one that's already tapping for green anyways. Yep. And that opens the door for Stasis to go Kaineos plus Stasis Chamber next turn. Provocative draws a Grassroots Campaigners, can go Skull and Nyxweaver or Grassroots Campaigners. Either one could be awkward here, though. In the face of Kaineos plus Stasis Chamber. Doesn't even swing the Anarchist. Interesting. Stasis picks up a Primal Fisher here. And if I'm Stasis, I'm feeling pretty comfortable at this point. You've got the Kaineos, you've got a Stasis Chamber to immediately shut off this Aspiring Anarchist or this Skull and Nyxweaver. The only point of awkwardness is if you want to specifically be trying to have Kaineos turn into a way to pick off one of these things permanently. Stasis Chamber is not going to get rid of the abilities on Skull and Nyxweaver, is not going to... And this is the creature you really do want to be answering right in this moment. Because an unchecked Skull and Nyxweaver could turn things around in a meaningful way for Provocative. Tapping down the Skull and Nyxweaver allows you to potentially get in for the Star-Studded Sagittar again, at least. But you're probably not yielding extra mana from all of that. We are seeing green, green, and blue floating a green. Manifest the Light Veins on the plains here. So it looks like we might be getting Manifest the Light Veins, tap the plains with Manifest the Light Veins for Kaineos. Oh no. Oh, this is so all in. So Kaineos gonna go find something, finds a star-studded Sagittar is the only option, and now Thunderous Avalanche is devastating for Stasis here. Thunderous Avalanche to destroy each artifact and enchantment with mana value less than or equal to the power of target creature you control. Provocative can target Skull and Nyxweaver and blow up each artifact and enchantment that costs 3 or less, which means Star-Studded Sagittar, Gone Pick, and Manifest the Light Veins and Equinox Mark all picked off, and suddenly Stasis is reduced to just Kaineos. Journey Begins is going to put a counter on Skull and Nyxweaver. I think if I'm Provocative here, the Thunderous Avalanche being able to pick off so much of this board is ideal. Looking at the top 5, says, oh, that's an interesting pick. That bodes well, potentially. Player thinking over their choices. Takes Skull and Nyxweaver, puts back Thunderous Avalanche, Hostile Evolution, Menelaya, and another Skull and Nyxweaver. So it was Menelaya versus Skull and Nyxweaver there. I can understand how that was a choice worth ruminating over. Skull and Nyxweaver, we could see Provocative tempted to run out the Skull and Nyxweaver here. It is certainly possible. If Provocative goes for the Skull and Nyxweaver play here, I think we've got to anticipate, wow, going right to combat here. So this could be Thunderous Avalanche being held up. This could be Provocative intending to play Skull and Nyxweaver second main, but this is going to be swinging for 8. Stasis declares no blocks. So I feel like this can't be a Skull and Nyxweaver line here in second main. We're going to see Thunderous Avalanche here, destroying all artifacts and enchantments, leaving just Kaineos behind, and +1/+1 counter mode. If that was the plan, I feel like you put a counter on the Nyxweaver before attacks, so that way you get in for 8. So you're only getting in for 9 here. But the Sleeper Insurgent does come back here, and Chipmunk in spectator chat clarifying about Equinox Mark should also be gone. And now Stasis is left with very few resources. Cracking the Primal Fissure could see... yeah, it's going to be another Plains here. And they're now in an awkward position. This Kaineos can't attack super safely unless they burn Stasis Chamber on Sleeper Insurgent, and that's another Star-Studded Sagittar, which makes the Plains fetch look a little awkward. So it can't just run out double Sagittar. Could run out Sagittar plus Stasis Chamber, but Stasis Chamber only is going to meaningfully let Kaineos get in if Sleeper Insurgent's the target, and Insurgent's a rough target for Stasis Chamber. And suddenly Provocative looks really comfortable. The Skull and Nyxweaver getting to just kind of sit in play and guarantee this Thunderous Avalanche gets through. We're going to see Stasis Chamber on the Aspiring Anarchist. Sleeper Insurgent is allowed to stick around, and Star-Studded Sagittar is the play here instead. We could be seeing a Nessian Scout Captain coming down here to make Sleeper Insurgent the champion. Draws a King of the Wilderness. No 5th lands to play it out yet, but this is a pretty devastating situation for Stasis to be in. Scout Captain is what's coming down here. 2 modes on Skull and Nyxweaver. +1/+1 and keyword modes. Is it going to be Vigilance counter on Sleeper Insurgent? Because I think it's going to be Vigilance counter on Sleeper Insurgent. going on the sleeper. And it's Vigilance. Man, Skull and Nyxweaver is so good here. Nessine Scout Captain going to declare one of these creatures as the champion. It's going to be the Skull and Nyxweaver up to a 6/6. Swing for 13 here. Stasis has to block something here. Says they both asks if they both have trample. Does have to put something under the bus here. Stasis just says GG's, and that is the first match already concluded. Stasis locking the sideboard here. Provocative locking the sideboard, and we're going to be hopping right into game 1 of match 2. And now it's anyone's game. Stasis does get to be on the play here. We're going to take a 5-minute break, it sounds like. Provocative taking a moment to take a breather between matches. Players are going to report to LackeyBot. While we parse, already moving on to match 2 here, let's take a moment to revisit the decks here and talk about, what we could potentially see here going into this second series. So we saw Stasis kind of hit some awkward bumps here. Kaineos not going to be enough with planned obsolescence to pick off most of the opposing creatures. We really do need Kaineos to help bridge into Builder of Monuments, Survivors, or Stormscraper. And even then, Builder and Survivors can't always pick things off with planned obsolescence. And we also saw some awkwardness with Stasis Chamber there through creatures that could untap. And Provocative, meanwhile, we saw Thunderous Avalanche coming in clutch in both games 2 and 3. The post-sideboard games, Thunderous Avalanche being able to check all of these enchantments, really meaningful in a lot of ways, especially in the face of things like Stasis Chamber that do not permanently deal with threats on the board, only leaving them tapped and their abilities still passively sticking around. So, obviously with us going back to Stasis on the play in game 1, and especially pre-sideboard, could see anyone coming out on top here, but this is definitely a tense series, and I cannot wait. And I think if we refresh here, yeah, we see the bracket flip. So Provocative versus Stasis here. Players clarifying on what bracket flip means, it looks like. Could I be could I be wrong about what happens here? Does Provocative go on the play? Just clarifying that Stasis being in the winner's bracket has to be beaten twice. Stasis is still the upper seed, I believe, so still does get to take play or draw in game 1 here. But no undefeated players in this Worlds tournament. Stasis, the last remaining undefeated player in the upper bracket, has now effectively been knocked into the lower bracket, which means this is the final match of the series. This has been a crazy Worlds run to watch both of these players participate in. Just a brief bit of the history of these runs as we wait here. Stasis fought against Zangi on white-blue control into All Who Wander on Abzan enchantments, then Split Moon on white-black control, and finally we had, of course, the upper finals match between Stasis and Laurel on Glint Golem's Tempo. Series of matches that do not necessarily play into the strengths of Stasis's deck, but definitely allowed Stasis to show their expertise with the strategy that they've cobbled together here. And for Provocative's part, Laurel making it to the upper finals had to do so in part by knocking Provocative down to the lower bracket. Provocative climbing out of the first round of upper bracket matches against Itayu Cool, but then getting knocked by Laurel down in match 14, arriving in the second wave of lower bracket matches, first against H Squid on Naya Plush Ramp, then making it up against a slew of matches that they had to win without fail. First Provocative being up against Philippe Zanner on Jeskai Amp It Up, then Split Moon on White-Black Control, then Caillou on White-Blue Colorless Control, and finally Laurel again on that Glint Golem's Tempo Shell. And in all of those matches, Provocative had to play pretty tightly there to crawl out of those matches. All of them except for that lower bracket finals match were... Yeah, every match Provocative played except for that lower bracket finals match was a 2-1 victory on their part, with the exception of their loss in the upper bracket, getting knocked down to the lower bracket against Laurel, being a 1-2, and of course Laurel being defeated by them in the revenge match in the lower finals. They took in 2-0. So great narrative here. Players are in the game here. Stasis keeping 7. Provocative looks like has mulliganed twice, down to 5. Not where you want to be here in the final match of Worlds 2025. Nessie and Scout Captain and A Journey Begins going to the bottom, but Seeker of New Horizons, Journey Begins, Secret Skull and Nyxweaver, and 2 lands. Third land, so this Journey Begins does not have to go find a land, can go find an actual threat. Seeker is about as good a start as you could hope for in this situation. Cityscape pitching Cityscape on Stasis' side of the field here, also with Planned Obsolescence, Sagittar, Survivors of the New World, Nascent Lightvein, and Forest. Goes and gets Island and Plains, Plains to hand, Island to play, and develops the Sagittar. Stormscraper is the draw here for Stasis. If Stasis can survive to Stormscraper, that will definitely help run this game over. Provocative draws the second Skull and Nyxweaver. We are seeing A Journey Begins come down here, developing something good, hopefully. What could it be? The third Skull and Nyxweaver. My god. I mean, that's about as good as you could hope for, right? Land drop develops counter on Seeker of New Horizons. Interesting question of if you attack here into the Star-Studded Sagittar. The choice not to ultimately means that if Stasis wants to get in with the Sagittar here, they may have to consider using the Planned Obsolescence to pick off the Seeker. Is going to offer the trade, and Prov's going to take it. So that is going to be Sagittar down, Seeker down, and now Stasis just has to go land drop pass. And that's a turn where Stasis develops nothing. Prov drawing the 4th land, but that's going to be Skull and Nyxweaver into Skull and Nyxweaver into Skull and Nyxweaver over the next 3 turns. Provocative says they're thinking. A nice bit of head games from Provocative here against Stasis, making this seem like more of a daunting choice than it really is in reality. Honestly, a bit of heads-up play on Provocative's part just to psych out Stasis a little bit. Builder of Monuments is the draw from Stasis, so double Builder, Survivors of the New World, Planned Obsolescence. It's got to be Builder here, yeah. So Builder is going to start to wall this Skull and Nyxweaver. We could see a 1-drop draw here. The 5th Forest is really awkward for Provocative. Are they going to say thinking again? No, they're just going for it. Nyxweaver here. It's going to probably be every mode other than untapping a land. So +1/+1 counter, keyword counter, and human token. Oh, the human token is going to get the counter, actually. The +1/+1 counter, anyways. And then Skull and Nyxweaver is getting Reach. Only really relevant against Stormscraper of Kedophos, but could still be relevant, I suppose. But Stasis is going to get to untap with this Builder here, and that means that Stasis is going to get to start running this game over. Plain tapped for Planned Obsolescence, going to pick off one of the Skull and Nyxweavers, and then Builder gets to attack and remove the second. Leaving Provocative with 2 Nyxweavers exiled and only a 2/2 white human token to their name And suddenly Stasis has absolutely shut the door on Provocative. Provocative could draw things to start recovering the board here, but Builder is a nightmare for this matchup if it just gets to stick around. So I have a feeling this was going to be a very quick move to game 2 here. Get a frowny face from Provocative, and they go to 16. Star-Studded Sagittar is the follow-up here. Oh, another lands draw for Provocative. Really not what we wanted to see here. Provocative just passing, not going to run out the third Nyxweaver here. Possible they're saving for trying to let Skull and Nyxweaver get a cast trigger, which is a pretty responsible, respectable line to pursue. Stasis clarifying they're good for attacks, but notably in game 1, neither of these players have instant speed interaction. The instant speed plays come from Provocative's sideboard primarily. And we are going to see Stasis Chamber just tap down this human token, preserving the remaining 2 planned obsolescences for more relevant threats, and allowing the Sagittar to get in, which means we could see Stormscraper of Ketaphos come down here. And that's going to be the Stormscraper. And this is lethal on board. Provocative issues the GG, and we are on to game 5 of this series. Absolutely blitzing through this match. Players sideboarding, going to be much quicker, not going to have time to go back and talk about these sideboards, but I imagine going to be very similar sideboard plans to what we saw game 1. Stasis unreadying, could be making some changes. Zakros Decree potentially being deemed not worthwhile, if I had to guess. It is possible that Zakros Decree just does not quite cut it in this matchup, but who knows? We'll see. Prov is taking the play. Stasis has a keepable 5, or has a keepable 7, rather. Provocative also keeping 7. Stasis, maybe a suspect 5, but definitely a keepable 7. Provocative getting to go land Seeker of New Horizons into Forest Growing Gecko next turn. That is going to be some great momentum here. Cityscape is the play for Stasis as they pick up a Gone Pickin'. And Provocative draws a second Menelea. Really needs to find that third land here, but Growing Gecko does put some real immediacy onto the board. Stasis is going to swing, Prov going to swing in for 2 here, and then develop that Growing Gecko. Stasis has to check this Gecko now, because if this thing flips, it is going to be a nightmare to clear. Actually, I believe it is mana value 0 on the backside, at which point I believe Planned Obsolescence picks it off. I need to double check that real quick. I always get that rule wrong. It is the mana value of its front face. So it is mana value 2 still. If it was a token, it would be mana value 0. Or if it was a copy of some kind. Cityscape pitching Star-Studded Sagittar for Forest and Plains. Stasis Chamber is the pickup, but not quite enough. Actually, we could see Primal Fissure here to go for Stasis Chamber on the Seeker of New Horizons. It's not the worst option. Stasis is pausing this first main. This is an important turn to have to navigate, so. But I do think that might genuinely have been Stasis's best possible draw here. We'll see what they choose to do. Yeah, I think Stasis, the one of Stasis Chamber here, really good in this particular scenario to punish the Seeker of New Horizons attack by opening up the avenue for the Gecko to not flip now. We see the fetch for Island. Oh no, it's going to be Manifest the Light Veins. Stasis accepting I am okay taking the 7 potential damage here. 6 without a land drop, but could just be 8 off of Menelaya instead. Skull and Nyxweaver means no third land drop, but Menelaya does represent 2 extra damage. And I have to imagine this is just going to be a Menelaya coming down. Is indeed. So that's going to be counters on probably the Nyxweaver, the Seeker and the Growing Gecko. So that is a swing for 8, down to 10 for Stasis, and flip the Growing Gecko. So Old Growth Gecko is a 7/6 sitting here now. Stasis untaps, swings with the Light Vein immediately, and could see just Builder come down. Gone picking. Pick off the Old Growth Gecko. Stasis says, yep, that is going to be the target after all. Planned Obsolescence to pick off the Seeker as well. And suddenly, Prov has lost a lot of that momentum. Provocative really getting done dirty here in this final match. Mana flooded in game 1, mana screwed in game 2. That has been an unfortunate repeating pattern in a lot of these final matches. For folks who tuned into the upper and lower bracket finals, we saw Laurel in particular really suffer a lot of mana screw in both of those matches, and now Provocative is under that same gun in a lot of ways. But never say never. Provocative could still climb back out of this. Taps 4 for Builder. That might be curtains. Because Avalanche does not meaningfully check this right now. That is the third forest. But it's just a turn too late, I feel. Because Skull and Nyxweaver can no longer come down here meaningfully because Builder Monuments just picks it off with Planned Obsolescence. Stasis gets to untap, draws a Manifest the Light Veins, and I think Stasis just gets to run away with this. Builder is not going to go checked here. We'll see another Light Veins played here. Attacking with all it looks like for 8. And that's going to be Planned Obsolescence. Down on the Aspiring Anarchist. Prov goes to 7 here. Oh, goes to 11. Is going to eat up 4 of that damage with Menelaya. But that means Provocative spends their whole turn cycle doing nothing besides losing their creatures. Forest to draw just a little too late. Nessian Scout Captain does come down to block, but that's just going to eat the Stasis Chamber from hand, I think. Might even just eat the Gone Picket instead, honestly. Just to deny the ability for Nessian Scout Captain to make another creature the champion. And then the Berry token from Gone Picket develops another point of damage. That's the third light veins drawn here for Stasis. And yeah, I think we're just done. Provocative is just 2 behind on board. Not really much to recover with here. Stasis says they are mathin'. No lethal this turn, but I don't see a world where you don't have lethal next turn. So this has been a pretty brutal match for Provocative on the back half of this series. Provocative says that's GG's on the Gone Pickin', and that is the end of Worlds 2025. Congratulations to Stasis, our 2025 Revolution World Champion, and congratulations to Provocative for the climb back, making it into the grand finals and pushing Stasis to this second series. As Philippe says here, gravity had to assert itself eventually. Provocative had some very crazy draws and very solid sequences in their climb back out of the lower bracket. So even if they did not make world champion here, still a phenomenal amount of accomplishment for both of these players. And again, Stasis is your Revolution World Champion for this year. Very exciting to see, and we'll have to see what Stasis has cooking up for their Worlds promo. Now, of course, an important reminder: Stasis, as the World Champion for Revolution, does get to design their own card to come into the format alongside the incoming sets. So we'll have to see what Stasis has in mind there. And if anyone voted for Stasis as their fantasy contender, they also get to submit designs to join the format. So we'll have to see how everything shakes out there. Very excited to see what the future holds for the format, both how things shape up with Kitsuo and Errors in the Weft. And of course, Kitsuo rotating into the format means Provocative might not have won the tournament, but sure did still get their set into the format. So this is still a successful month for Provocative here, our runner-up in this tournament. So one final big congratulations to Stasis, our 2025 Revolution World Champion. And I'm going to keep saying it. They said that they were feeling a bit of imposter syndrome around it, but I really want to keep ringing that bell. They fought for this. They have been fighting for Bant Builder. We have had a running joke about my general dislike for the strategy from a purely logistical view. And Stasis really rubbing it in on just how much they have nailed this archetype down. I remember I described the deck as one that was for squares. So naturally, they had to make sure that we knew they were hip to be square with their deck name here. So that wraps up our World Championship for the year. There is a lot still going on with Revolution as we move into another month of the format and more things going on in the format. There are, of course, going to be rotation news coming about cards being updated in the May 1st patch. All news around that will be going up on May 1st. I will do what I can to try and have the second half of the set review published. I'm still in the middle of writing it, but I'll get that to you sometime in this week, I suspect. And even just beyond all of that, there is plenty to be excited about. If you want a chance of competing in the Revolution World Championship in 2026, in the 5th World Championship, you have plenty of opportunities to do so. If you check out the description below, join the custom Magic Discord. Join in the Revolution conversations. Every single Grand Prix winner gets an invite to compete in the Revolution World Championship next April. As do all of the league winners. If you compete in the league play, the more arguably more casual side of the format that is still considered the sanctioned play, you can get enough league wins and qualify as the league winner for that given 4-month season. And that locks you in for a seat in the Revolution World Championship. Or you can be like Stasis here and qualify through winning the World Championships of the prior year. So Stasis is our first locked-in competitor for 2026, and I can't wait to see over the next year who else qualifies. And maybe it could be you. Looking forward to seeing how it all shapes up over the next year. And until then, I'll see you all in the Revolution chat. Take care, everybody. And what a series.